What just happened? What was that? Wow. I've been covering cases at Court TV for decades. I have never seen what just happened to a lead investigator happen. This just happened to him. This was bad. Not quite Furman, okay? Not quite Furman. That's the worst, right? That's the worst case scenario. But this is bad. Absolutely horrific. Prosecution had to call him, though. They had to call him. They had to call him to get some pieces of evidence into evidence. He's in the chain of custody. He had to get the tail light and everything else into evidence, which they need to prove their case, to try to prove their case. But man, a state trooper with that much baggage, and it wasn't just him. It wasn't just him. His supervisors all going down. This is horrific. And now this jury has to believe this man. This jury, I don't know if you can prove this case without the jury believing this man. And what just happened to him is bad. I mean, it's really bad. You have a serious job. He has a really serious job. Homicide investigator. But to be communicating with superiors and the way he's referring to what he's doing, looking for nudes. It's a joke. Yeah, it's a joke. But it's not a joke in front of this jury. And the level of animus and language. Now, I get it. Now, I mean, one thing he should have done, and to explain this is say, yeah, when a fellow officer is killed, you know, I feel a certain way. But that's not the way it's coming through. This is not good. This is not good for prosecutors. It's not good for them, excuse me, to try to prove their case. Wow. Let me put a scale on it, 0 to 10. How bad is this? If Furman is the 10, right? Furman is the 10. This is an 8.5. This is an 8.5. Because it's all about character and credibility, which is being called into question. And it's you know, you watch all today and you're like, oh, did we forget about everything else that he testified to? Which was important stuff. What do I say all the time? I'm like, you're a prosecutor, your case has got to go in clean. It's got to be clean. This case has not been clean at all. There is so much for this prosecutor to attempt to overcome at this point. It's not, you know, it's not impossible. It's still not impossible. But you've got to get 12 people to all believe this man. And you've got to believe things he's saying beyond any reasonable doubt. The burden is on the prosecution. It never leaves, even though we're in a case where the defense is alleging something in and of themselves. It at the end of the day, when this jury is instructed by the judge, when the arguments are made, it's going to be all about that burden of proof. Now, it's not over, because now the defense has an entire day to meticulously prepare their cross-examination. This is a bad day. And the prosecutor knows it. He doesn't, you can't blame the prosecutor for any of this. You can't. But now you've got a problem. It's a real problem. This is the guy. This is the man who was leading this investigation. Now, whether you believe he's got an actual conflict of interest or not, that'll be dealt with even more in the rest of the cross-examination. It was dealt with by the prosecutor. Did everything correctly that he's supposed to do here. He had to call this witness because he needed him to get important pieces of evidence in front of the jury. Okay, there's chain of custody. He did things and saw things and grabbed things that were significant pieces that had to be put in front of the jury. Now, he also had to deal with on direct all of the baggage. And this is baggage you don't expect. This is baggage you expect from your civilian witnesses, right? In a typical case where you're going after someone, a defendant is sort of not a pillar of the community. And sometimes you have, as witnesses, as a prosecutor, you have people connected to the defendant. So there are also people who aren't necessarily the pillars of the community. This is in a typical case. And they dirty up your case as a prosecutor a little bit, but you always try to explain to the jury, well, I don't pick the witnesses. These were people who were friends with the defendant. He brought him into his life. But that's not this. This is your lead investigator, a Massachusetts state trooper, who can be criticized for maybe a sloppy investigation or not doing everything that you would expect them to necessarily do. But this is beyond that. This is not that. This is things that he's doing and saying to his superiors, to other troopers, like Buchanan, who was liking his comment. The whole thing is unseemly. And these are important jobs. And you're trying to. It doesn't get more serious than this. First of all, you're investigating something to bring justice to the victim and his family, and then on the other hand, at some point, you are accusing someone and you are attempting to take away their liberty for the rest of their lives. So it doesn't get more serious than a homicide investigation in terms of the type of work you do. And to have these types of comments with superiors at the Massachusetts State Police is horrible. What does the jury think of the Massachusetts State Police tonight as they go home? That they're making these kind of comments about a woman, about her medical condition. I get it. He believes she's guilty. He believes she's a cop killer and believes she's a, quote, whack job. But you're communicating all of it, and you hate her attorney. You hate the guy. And you're sharing this with your superiors, and they're not admonishing you for that. Well, you shouldn't be saying that. Nothing like that. Nothing like that, except, liking a comment. This is a problem. This is truly a problem. And it goes beyond. This goes beyond, what happened there, because the people who are trying to prove to you what happened there are the ones whose credibility is now being called into question. Now, what you have to understand is this does not excuse the conduct, but in most cases, this information is never brought to light, which brings us to another issue. Should it be brought to light? Should they be having these kind of conversations? Should people have these types of thoughts, be in charge of serious investigations like this? That's a discussion for another time. What I'm discussing now is How is this playing inside the courtroom? How is this impacting the 12 people who will make the decision here? How will this impact whether or not justice is reached in this case? That's where I am right now. It's really, really, really bad. Because of the communications, because of the language, because of who is actually communicating here. Will the jury make this and turn this into inexcusable conduct? That I cannot, in good conscience, convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt when I now know this about the lead investigator and his superiors in the way they've conducting themselves. Incredibly unprofessional. Incredibly unprofessional. If you're the prosecution, you got to hope they can get beyond this. That they can compartmentalize this in their deliberations. That not a great guy, not very professional, but the evidence is what it is. And I don't believe that just because he's using this language, just because he is being this unprofessional and crude in what he is saying, that he would take it the next step and literally plant evidence. So the challenge, I think, for this jury, for the prosecution, is to get them to understand there's a difference between what he is saying here and actually committing a crime and framing someone for murder. That there's a difference between the two. That they're not connected. That there's a line between, and he did not cross that line. It's hard. It's a hard sell, right? It's a hard sell right now. So now the burden that a prosecutor carries into the courtroom is heavy enough. It just got 10 times heavier because now you've got to overcome this. And you could. I mean, it could. I've been surprised. But this makes it so much more difficult. And this is just the beginning of the cross-examination. It's going to continue on Wednesday. Because they have a day to do more. This is, can the damage be repaired inside that courtroom? Is Lally up to it? Okay, is Lally up to it is the question. Because there have been some problems with him as he's run into his own problems. He's created his own problems as well. Is that the guy who can overcome all this? Then how does this relate to the truth? Well, for the people who believe this, Karen Read is framed. I mean, this is the fuel. This fuels it. This fuels it beyond that Google search that started it, right? The 227 Google search that started it. This now adds more fuel to all of it. In most cases, you would have just you might have something, you might fall into something like this and be like, oh my good, but there's more here in this case. Can you believe this man beyond a reasonable doubt? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's what the defense is going to say. Can you really believe this man beyond a reasonable doubt? Because to find Karen Read guilty, you must. And there's a difference between proving a cover up and raising doubt that some level of cover up is possible, is reasonable. Well, it just got a whole lot more reasonable today, didn't it? A whole lot more reasonable today. And troopers know better. Experienced troopers like this know better. You can't do this. Like, I understand you're from Boston, rough and tumble. This is the way we talk, but it's not the way we talk. Because what I'm seeing, and this is where I think it becomes a real problem, right? And by the way, Karen Read's not testifying, period. She's not. You don't want this case, if you're the defense, to be about anything other than Trooper Proctor right now. That's what this case is about. Okay. It has even less to do about the people in the house that night. It has everything to do about the lead investigator. That's where you found some of the most appalling behavior in this case and in this investigation. So she's not testifying. I can tell you that right now. So here is the real problem that I was finding. Like, I'm watching him testify on direct. I'm watching him comport himself. He's dressed well. He speaks well. He's got the local accent, but everybody's got the local accent. I enjoy it. I think it's great. But he comes across as extremely professional, the way I would expect a Massachusetts state trooper who is a lead investigator and has been investigating these types of cases for years. Like, almost out of central casting. But that's what is being shown to the jury. But now what the jury saw and heard is Michael Proctor, unplugged, unchained. That's the part the jury usually doesn't see. So if I'm a juror, I'm like, well, who is the real guy here? Like, when he's texting, is that who he really is? Is that how this investigation really was put together? And what we're seeing here in court is like a show, is like pretend time. See, that's the problem with the trooper I saw testify, who seemed extremely credible. But now I am seeing and hearing Michael Proctor when he's not on the witness stand, what he says, what he does, what he thinks. And none of that is okay. I'm also seeing the reaction or lack of reaction, other than a like, of his superiors at the Massachusetts State Police. So what just happened here? What just happened here is that the credibility of the Massachusetts State Police, not just this trooper, has been undermined in this case. And these are the people who are leading the investigation into Karen Read and want this jury to find her guilty, which will take away her liberty for the rest of her life. They are the ones who put the evidence, found the evidence, put it together, laid it out for the medical examiner. And they're the ones bringing these charges. And now we found out what they are saying and thinking when they're not on the witness stand, when they're not on video, when they're not writing a report, when they're not testifying somewhere else. They messed up big time. This is bad. This is really, 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 really bad. And they've got to recover. They've got to finish strong. The prosecution needs to finish strong, and Adam Lally has to put this together and explain to the jury somehow, some way, how they can, despite what he's saying and thinking, believe and trust this man beyond a reasonable doubt. And right out of the box here, I've got to figure out how he's going to do that, because it's all about the burden right now. Now, I always say a trial is the search for the truth, right? But things like this obscure everything inside of a courtroom and make it so much more difficult for a prosecutor to prove his case or her case beyond a reasonable doubt, and ultimately make it difficult for a jury to find the truth. And that's tough. That's rough. That's bad. Like the dirty parts of your case can be the civilians, the real people. The dirty part of your case cannot be your lead investigator. I see we have a very vigorous conversation taking place right now in the chat room, and that is appreciated. Let's not make it personal, because it's not personal. It's like that line from The Godfather. It's not poisonal. It was just business. Tell Michael it wasn't poisonal. It was just business. You see, everything now that has been touched by Trooper Proctor gets extra scrutiny that it would not normally get in any other case. An extra level of scrutiny by the jury. The jury takes their job so seriously. And they want justice. They want to find the truth. They're going to follow the rules. But at the end of the day, they're going to be asked to believe and trust witnesses, their testimony, and the evidence that they brought into the courtroom. And all reasonable doubt must be erased and gone. It's going to be tough. It's not impossible, but it's incredibly more difficult now. Incredibly more difficult. Right now, I would not want to be this prosecutor. Because you're going to have to spend time not just convincing the jury of the guilt of Karen Read, you've got to convince them that they can trust the work of Trooper Proctor. They have to trust his work to find Karen Read guilty. And the one thing that you never want to happen in your trial is now happening in this trial. Someone other than the defendant is now on trial. Believe it or not, agree with it or not, Trooper Proctor is now on trial. as are the Massachusetts State Police. And it was interesting, the defense was asking some questions about getting into, well, did anything happen to you as a result of this? And the prosecution was objecting. And I'm like, why would you object to that? You object to that. Now, of course, the jury's going to believe either something did happen to him or nothing happened to him. Like either one, neither one is good. Okay. If nothing happened to him as a result of these comments, etc., then the jury's gonna be like, well, nothing happens. So this is just business as usual. And if something did happen to him, then it's like, okay, well, he was not acting properly, so he got in trouble for this. Like neither one of them is good. And I don't know what the arguments will be at the end of the case. But man, oh man. Okay, let me try to get to some of your comments, and there's a ton of them, and I'm sure you have some great thoughts, and I'll try to give you my honest reaction to your honest thoughts that you're giving here. So let's just do that. I'm gonna roll through them. A lot of good people here. June, hi, Vinny. Misogyny. That's a problem, right? That's a problem. That's a problem. Disrespecting a woman, objectifying a woman in today's world is not good. It may not be interpreted as being good from male and or female jurors. I mean, I don't see a difference. Sometimes men are tougher on men, women are tougher on women. Is this just locker room talk? Is it okay? Is it okay? Does anyone think it was okay? I don't think anyone thinks what he did was okay. Thank you, Dr. Bull Butter. Why did they bring this case? Exit 7, Route 287 off the New Jersey Turnpike. Why did they bring this case? They brought this case because they believe she's guilty. They believe they have the evidence that she's guilty. There's no evidence that anyone else did it, that they uncovered. Period. That's why they brought the case. Did at any point they expect any of these text messages or communications to be part of the case? No, they did not, because usually they aren't. In this case, they are, and the jury did hear it. And it's all problematic. It's all problematic. But they brought this case because they believe they have direct evidence, a confession. They believe they have physical evidence, the tail light, the bits of tail light found on the victim, the broken tail light, DNA, the broken glass, etc. So, absolutely. They believe they have the evidence. Mark Goldman, hey, watching on the Long Island Railroad, off to the city. Good luck getting in the city. Stay safe, Mr. Goldman. Yeah, glad to know you're watching. All right. Let's see who else is in. Seagate 1, Vinny. He has to leave Mass after this. What's the fallout from this? It's problematic. There could be some discipline. I don't think he loses his job. But in future cases, will his communications, his text messages be able to be subpoenaed by the defense? I don't know. Maybe. This may still end in a conviction, folks. But yeah, it's a problem. It's certainly a problem in this case. Could it have more impact on his career, on other cases? Potentially. Trust me, every criminal defense attorney will now attempt to use this as a basis to further investigate him in any of the cases they're involved in. Certainly that's going to happen. Certainly that will happen. They may not be successful in doing it, but This is so high profile that it will continue to be a problem. Wicked Mainha. At this point, it doesn't matter if she's guilty or innocent. She was the first and only target. Game over. Well, I agree with your point here that potentially, if the jury cannot get beyond this, if the jury cannot trust this witness, then whether or not she's innocent or did it is irrelevant, because it'll be impossible to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt without the jury believing this witness, trusting this witness. They have to. He brought in important pieces of evidence in the case. He found them. He personally found them. But if they believe there is something else going on with this trooper, it's a problem. Now, first and only target. This is interesting because of how was this case? How did KarenRead become a suspect in this? It's because of her alleged statements that she made, not just to Jen McCabe, but to like first responders. So if she is herself saying, did I hit him or I hit him, then she becomes a target for obvious reasons. She has just, depending upon how you interpret all this, right, and who you believe, but she has confessed to this, which makes her the focus of the investigation. And then the rest of the evidence, if you believe this trooper and others, were all connected to her and her SUV. I don't know who else, like if you believe them, then who else would be a target of this? So I don't know if the fact that it's the first and only target that makes it game over. I think it's more about the jury not being able to get beyond these statements to believe and trust the trooper. But first and only target, I think there's a plausible explanation for the prosecution for that. If you believe that she confessed, if someone confesses and the rest of the physical evidence corroborates that, who else do you need to look at? Who else do you need to look at? You know, if the medical examiner is telling you it's consistent, if the physical evidence is consistent, then why do you need to look somewhere else? So I think there's a plausible explanation for that part of it. The part that is more difficult is for the jury to believe and trust this particular witness based upon what has come out, not only on direct, but now in a much more powerful way on cross-examination. Emily C., can this trial be thrown out because of this? No, the trial is not going to be thrown out. I think what your question really is at the end of the prosecution's case, could there be a judgment of acquittal? And I would say there could be, but it's like extremely unlikely, because the legal test to throw out a case at the end of the prosecution's case is to look at the evidence in the light most favorable to the prosecution. And the light most favorable to the prosecution, the testimony of Proctor is that he made these, it was a joke. He really wasn't looking for nudes. He's what he said was wrong, but it did not impact his investigation. That's the light most favorable to the prosecution. And that's how the judge has to look at the testimony. And that's why I believe the judge will not dismiss or throw out any of these charges at the end of the prosecution's case. But it's because of the way the judge is obligated to look at the evidence under the law. I hope that answers your question, Emily C. Thank you so much. That's a tough burden. I mean, sometimes, you know, if you have a case where there are dozens of charges, a few I've seen tossed in the past. But in this case, I don't think it's going to happen. This is from Melly. Thank you, Melly. The text messages he wrote and had to say aloud in front of the jury, so distasteful. And the question is, what is the impact of that? How far does this take the jury away from being able to believe the testimony of this trooper and trust this trooper? Because he's conceding that it's distasteful. He's conceding that it's wrong. Okay. He's not trying to explain it. He's not trying to justify it. He's admitting that it's wrong. But what's the impact of it? Because this is showing who this witness is when he's not on the witness stand, right? To me, that's important. And Melly, along with Frankie Figs and Gen X, keeping order in the court. Always appreciate the mods, Vinny's Angels. Here's quite a G. John will never get justice, unfortunately, and his poor parents have been brainwashed. Sad all around. And justice means that a jury tells us what happened and holds someone responsible. To me, that's what justice is. And I think there's a chance that that may not happen, Quita G. That chance is much greater today than it was yesterday. Laura Wagner, he is a whack job. And that's and that's what the jury may be thinking. And again, this is your lead investigator, and that is a problem. Michelle L., bring on the medical examiner for whom Proctor, quote, laid the whole case out, end quote. And that's important too now. Do these issues now seep and leak and taint other witnesses? Such a great point by Michelle L. And that's, the impact of all of this. How far does it go? How far does it go? How badly does it harm the rest of the witnesses and the rest of the case? Sally Vella, cops are incompetent when it comes to crime. Emily Baker is with us. Emily D. Baker, who does an amazing job covering this stuff day in and day out. Hello to the chat. Hello to the mods. Hey to Melly. Gen X is also with us. Welcome, Emily. Love your content. We are continuing. What a great conversation today. How bad is this, right? Is really what we're trying to assess now. And, I can't give you the exact answer. Only the jury has the answer. But it's a problem. Hey, Paula, I feel so sorry for the family. Right. For the victims, right? For John's family, because you don't want the people trying to get to the bottom of what happened to your son, to your brother, to the man who was raising you. You don't want the troopers acting this way, and you don't want to somehow impact this jury's quest to find the truth. And it may very well have happened. How could a juror overcome this? I honestly do not think I could. Thank you for being honest. Hey, Paula. That's the real question that we don't know, because we don't know these jurors. We only know the way we are reacting to this, and it's not good. Captain Janks, this trial is like everyone is auditioning for a part in the sequel to Jaws. Hung jury, in my opinion. Now let's think about that for a second, right? Captain Janks, thank you. Hung jury, because there may be some jurors that can't overcome this, but there might be others who could. And that's where the problem could happen, right? Can all 12 overcome this to trust and believe him? And could all 12 say, no, it's game over for the prosecution? Right? I think it's tough. Captain Janks may very well be onto something here, as the captain usually is. All right, let's see what else we have here. And Sue Murchell. Totally agree, Vinny, that Lally has struggled. But I believe he did the right thing in putting Proctor on the stand and having him own things that were said about the defendant. It's the only thing you can do. Because you can't have the defense present this to the jury, right? Then it looks like you're trying to hide something, right? So yeah, Lally struggled, but he had to do this. He had to. June, he hated her so much and her lawyer that he wouldn't have had a moral dilemma to make her conviction certain. Maybe. Great point by June here. How about this? How about this? How about this? He knows that she did it. And maybe she actually did do it. But I'm going to make sure the jury convicts her. How am I going to do that? I'm going to taint the evidence. I'm going to plant some extra evidence. I'm going to definitely make sure there's no doubt here. That's possible too, right? Like someone could actually have done it. Like let's take a look at the O.J. Simpson case. Let's presume, and I don't presume anything, but let's presume that Furman did actually plant evidence, and he planted it because he knew O.J. was guilty anyway, but he just wanted to make sure they got a conviction, right? See, once that line is crossed, though, the jury, in my book, the jury cannot convict the defendant. You can't, even if there's enough evidence, notwithstanding the extra planted evidence, you can't. Our system can't work that way. Okay? If any investigator taints or plants evidence, that defendant must be set free. Even if they did it. Even if they did it. Otherwise, our system is broken. Is broken. So I believe most jurors believe the same thing. That even if they, the defendant probably did it, but I believe there was some planted evidence. If a jury believes there's planted evidence, I can't imagine any jury convicting a defendant in our system of justice, because it's set up for that to not happen. Okay. SN says, why are they taking this case to court when the FBI is investigating? Wouldn't it be more fair to wait and see what they come up with? The FBI is not investigating the murder, the death. The FBI was investigating the investigators. That's my understanding. They don't have jurisdiction. They don't have jurisdiction over the death. That's a state case. There's no federal jurisdiction. It didn't happen in federal property. It didn't cross state lines. They have no jurisdiction for the death investigation. Let's see. So they're investigating the investigation to make sure civil rights aren't violated or anything else. But thank you, SN. That's why they're taking this case to court, because it's a state case. Nikki Johnson, he tainted the blue line. Cops everywhere are going to hate him. Ooh, didn't think about it in those terms. Didn't think about it in those terms, but thank you, Nikki. I hadn't even... Let me think about that for just a second, Nikki. How will other officers, what do other officers think of him tonight? Well, he's not making their jobs easier. And he's not making the jobs of other prosecutors in other cases easier either, especially up in Massachusetts from the Massachusetts State Police. Nikki, thank you so much. By the way, this must be a hot topic today. I think everyone's all in on this. We're over 9,000 current viewers. We're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. If you're watching on Facebook, please share this. Please share it. Thank you so much. If you're on YouTube, you know what you have to do. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button right now and give us a like. Give us the like. Thank you so much. Twitch, you got to do what you do over there. I still haven't figured that out. And on X, you have to re-exit or retweet it or repost it. Thank you so much, everyone. And I am reading. Here we go. CBC. This is the kind of guy my mom warned me about. Let me tell you. Are women going to like this guy? But are men going to like this guy? Like, men, I mean, people try to give us this is problematic because it's unprofessional, and it's unprofessional with other members, superiors in the state police. That's the part that really hit me. If he was just talking to fellow cops, but like your superiors, and they're not dressing you down for doing this. Run the world. Given what went down today, it's going to be outrageous and out of line if it's an all-male panel on your court TV panel tonight. You really need a female perspective. Ditch misogynist Kevin. Thank you, Run the World. I do not place people based on any of my panels based upon gender, skin color, or anything else. I try to get people who know the case. And in this case, I absolutely needed people who see the case differently. So we'll see. Thank you though, Run the World. I appreciate it. I will keep that in mind and have that discussion. Thank you. Lisa Louise, not happening, Vinny. We're Bostonians. We went through tea overboard for far less than what Norfolk County and the Massachusetts State Police have done. This will not fly with 12 jurors. Case over. Lisa Louise, thank you. The case is over. I get it. I need to hear from local folks, right? Because that's who's going to make this decision. 12 people. Hesso. Thank you, Hesso, for watching. Appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. Melissa Hanna, from the start, this case was done unprofessionally by all the players acting like junior high students, aligning their stories to make sure they all sounded the same. It's hard to disagree. It's hard to disagree based upon what we heard today. Thank you, Melissa. Gringa, is Proctor the ultimate nightmare witness for the state? Gringa, the answer is yes. Yes, because this is your lead investigator, someone who found crucial pieces of evidence. This is the ultimate nightmare. This is up there again with Furman. I said Furman's a 10 because Furman took the 5th on whether or not he planted evidence. We didn't get quite there. 8-5. This is an 8-5. All right, Gringa. Thank you. Creed. Rookie move, not meeting with the ME and getting the homicide determination. And we are to believe they wouldn't place tail light glass to frame someone. Yeah, the conversation back and forth is bad. Bad in light of what's being alleged here. Bad in light of the incredibly difficult burden that Adam Lally, as the prosecutor, now has to try to convince these juries to believe this man. Thank you, Creed, and the rest of the state police. Sonny, this case is toast. Could be. You're gonna have to make it up. You're gonna have to overcome. You've got to overcome this. Overcome the words of your own investigator. Wow. Tough to believe. Laura Stone, Vinny, you should consult with Lally and get her done. I can't. I do not consult with any of the parties in any of the cases that we are following. That would be a slight conflict of interest. I could interview them, but there's a gag order anyway, so impossible. But I get what you're saying, Laura. I get what you're saying. I think Lally knows what he's up against right now. I think Lally understands the challenge he has. And Lally and his team, he needs help. He needs to sit down in a round table with the rest of the great prosecutors from that office and say, give me some ideas. What would you do? What would you do? And just hear different voices. I think he needs to hear different voices. That's always good. Tina D, hello from Dubai. I cannot believe those text messages. How degrading and upsetting. Well described. Degrading and upsetting. They are beyond, they are degrading and upsetting. That's a great way to describe them. I may use that tonight on my show. Don't forget to watch tonight, 8 to 10 on Court TV. We'll be doing this one at 8 o'clock. This is a bad, as a prosecutor, there are bad days in every trial, right? Especially one this long. But this is a really bad day. By the way, we just broke 10,000 live viewers on our stream. 10,000 live viewers right now. Make sure on Facebook you're sharing, YouTube, you're subscribing, and hitting that like. I really appreciate it. Color Street Babe. What is that? What kind of name? That's an interesting name. I don't know what it means. I hope it's nothing bad. What do you think the O'Keefe family is thinking about all of this? Are they questioning the integrity of the investigation? How could they not? I think what happens to a family, they believe what they believe based upon the evidence that they've seen and heard, right? I think they're really upset right now. I think it's disheartening. I think it's disheartening because now you know the quest for justice has gotten much more difficult. And if they believe Karen Read is responsible, they may be a little bit angry with the trooper right now for having done this, because the impact it's having on justice for their son, for their brother. I think they might be angry. It may not change their opinion about what they think about the case, because they're familiar with the evidence, and I am sure that they believe what they believe, and they're entitled to believe whatever they believe based upon the evidence they've seen and heard. Derek, Vinny, stop towing the line. They framed an innocent woman. Could be your daughter or sister. All right, Derek. Let's just wait a minute here. Let's just wait a minute here. I don't have a sister. I do have a daughter. So thank you. Does this automatically equal frame? Does this automatically equal frame? Because now, Derek, you've taken it to the next step, right? Which is not necessary for Karen Read to go free. But you've taken it to the next step, which is now you are accusing them of a crime. Okay? Have we seen enough evidence to believe that they've committed a crime beyond a reasonable doubt? Derek, are you convinced right now, without the defense presenting any evidence, are you convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that Trooper Proctor committed a crime by lying on the witness stand, committing perjury, taking evidence, and framing someone he knows is 1,000% innocent? Has that been proven inside this courtroom beyond a reasonable doubt? I don't think so. I don't think that's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I think they may have raised a doubt in the state's case, but we have not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that anyone has been framed. And that's part of the, and again, what you have to understand, Derek, There's a difference between what you're saying here and what the defense will be arguing at the end of the case. Okay? And we can have this discussion that you're having, Derek, every day on Court TV. We can have it here on this stream. And I think it's an important discussion to have. But at this point, I don't think I've seen the evidence to convince me beyond a reasonable doubt that there was a crime committed by the lead investigator based upon what we've heard so far and what we've seen so far. And I think it would be difficult to prove that under any circumstances here because of the way the case was investigated. Because no one else was investigated, and all that evidence has disappeared that could prove someone else did this. Right? I think the best at this point that you can do is make it appear to be a reasonable alternative explanation, which is all that's required, and which is, at the end of the day, I think all the defense will argue in this case. But at this point, I'm not towing any line. I'm reacting and analyzing what's happening inside the courtroom. And I'm sure, Derek, you've been all in on this case and you know a lot more than this jury knows right now. And you know a lot more than has been talked about inside the courtroom. But what you're hearing from me right now is my honest assessment of this case based upon the evidence in the courtroom. So I hope you appreciate that, Derek. And I don't think we're disagreeing. I just think we're talking about different things right now. And I'm not talking about what you're talking about, which is the case against him. And honestly, I'll tell you, I don't think that case has been proven, but that case isn't being tried per se. But what is happening is his credibility is being called into question, which will raise the ability for the defense to say, hey, there's another reasonable explanation about what happened here, and another reasonable explanation for some of the evidence here. And it is based in large part now upon the credibility of this man. Thank you, Derek. Good conversation to have. All right, who else do we have here? Deets on the streets. What does that mean? Maybe that's someone's name. What about Sergeant Barrow's testimony today? Cracked and a piece missing, but not completely damaged, as well as testifying to why KarenRead's dad called 911 because he wanted a ride to the hospital, not self-harm. His testimony looms large for the defense because of the way this is interpreted. Cracked and a piece missing, but not completely damaged. What does completely damaged mean? You see, notice there was no cross-examination because as that testimony sat, it is perfect for the defense. Perfect. They don't want to touch it. They just want to leave it be. And at the end of the case, they will be able to argue to the jury, ladies and gentlemen, remember Sergeant Barrow's testimony? Do you remember we didn't cross-examine him? You know why we didn't cross-examine him? Because we know that he told the truth on the stand. That's going to be a great line that they're going to use. And I believe they will use it. Sergeant Barrow's cracked and a piece missing, but not completely damaged, completely helps the defense. Absolutely. But what does that really mean? See, if I was the prosecutor, I would have asked him, cracked and a piece missing and not completely damaged. What does that mean? Let me show you a picture. And then show him the picture and say, is this consistent with what you mean by cracked and not completely damaged? Right? That's what you need to do to fully flush it out. But that testimony. Now, by the way, the prosecutor had to put him on chain of custody, necessary witness, can't avoid him. You need to put him on, and they did. But will be absolutely very big for the defense in the arguments they make to this jury at the end of the case. I love this from the B. Did she confess or was it a my cousin Vinny confession? Yeah, I've been saying this from the beginning. I shot the clerk. I shot the clerk. I shot the clerk. Right? Is it I hit him or I hit him? I hit him. I hit him. I hit him. Or is it I hit him? I hit him. I hit him. Two completely different statements. And the B, I think that will go a long way, whichever way the jury believes that plays. If they believe that's a confession, that's direct evidence. That is direct evidence. Hesso, one more time. Judge is friends with those cops. She's in on it, says Hesso. I think the defense did make some arguments about trying to get the judge recused. The judge did not recuse herself, and that did not happen. So I don't know this judge. I can't imagine that the judge is in on this, but if the judge is, you've now taken the conspiracy like all the way from first responders to lead investigators to people in the house to people at the party before they got to the house to the judge and the prosecutor. I don't know. That might be a step too far, but we'll see. We'll see. I will say this. I believe that, judges, all judges in courtrooms across America, I'll take you behind the curtain, they all have reputations. Hey, how's this judge? This judge, pro prosecution, like all judges at the end of the day justify all their rulings based upon the law. But all laws are up to interpretation. And there are judges that lean one way and lean the other. Like in the courthouse I worked in, we had one judge. I'd go in there as a prosecutor. I knew I was going to win. There was another judge. I go in there as a prosecutor, and I knew there was a 75% chance I was going to lose whatever I was arguing. So judges get reputations because they see things a certain way, right? And I'm honest with you. I'm a former prosecutor. That's my filter. That's where I start. That's the way I see these cases through the eyes of a prosecutor. But I also hold prosecutors up to their ethical obligations, which are to always seek the truth, always, and not hide evidence from the defense. That gets me the most angry is when they object to the defense trying their case. All right. We've got Alicia Panet. I think the texts are distasteful, but doesn't change the evidence. I think they are waiting for the medical examiner. I think she did it, but defense definitely shows reasonable doubt, right? And there's the difference between not guilty and innocent. Alicia has very well stated that. Thank you, Alicia. S. Artiste. If I were on the jury, I would consider all the shifted eyes towards the pro whenever they don't want to reply as part of their demeanor. And yes, you can do that. Yes, you can do that. Thank you. June, she called Carrie and said that John was dead, hit by a snowplow. Carrie was a credible witness. If Proctor had searched the man's phone for nudes and had informed his supervisors, that wouldn't have been misogyny. June with, again, a very interesting approach and analysis of the evidence in this case. Thank you so much. All right. Vinny, why are they investigating the investigators? They're investigating the investigators. It was very unusual. There was a federal investigation was started and was ongoing during the course of this investigation. Completely bizarre, was a big part of the pretrial litigation in the case, but it's a reality in this case and is the reason that the defense has gotten some evidence they normally would not get. Bry Bear, will he ever be credible in any court again? It depends upon the judges in those other trials. What information will defense attorneys in other cases be permitted to subpoena? What evidence what things will they be able to bring up on cross-examination? That's going to be a case-by-case decision on all of that. Case by case. And we've got Brian Burke. Shout out to my mom, Kim Burke from Boston. If you get divorced, don't hesitate to reach out. All right. A little commercial in the middle of everything. Thank you so much. Jessamy Robley. Hi, Vinny, Boston resident here. And after what we saw today, there is outrage in the community. It's truly scary that these are supposed to be the best and brightest. Scary. Yes, it's scary, shocking, outrageous. There's many different ways to put this, and it's disheartening. Absolutely. Lisa Marie in Tennessee. Vinny, I've been a fan of yours forever. Proctor's statements literally made me sick. My best friend has been battling MS for years. Nothing funny about it. That's the other part, right? And by the way, we're over 11,000 people watching right now. Yeah, this is distasteful. It's outrageous. And at the end of the day, may very well be held against him and his credibility, right? The jury is the judge of every witness's credibility. JD, a ghost. What about Officer Burroughs' testimony today? Yes. Significant and a win for the defense. Significant and a win for the defense. Michelle L., what about the initial talk about the fact that it was a physical altercation by Proctor? Did he initially want to say she hit him with the glass, then changed later after learning about the broken tail light? Interesting. Not sure, but may come up on cross-examination. McSpunky, guess who's back? Back again. Spunky's back. Tell a friend. Of course. By the way, folks, 8 o'clock tonight, closing arguments. Obviously, we will be all over this. We'll see how it goes. This guy is the poster boy for the defense case. This is a defense attorney's dream coming true when you can do this to a lead investigator. Tishku, do you think what happens with Turtleboy could set precedent case law that will affect true crime reporting? So Turtleboy, for those of you who don't know, one of the first YouTube, if not the first YouTube live streamer, really all over this case and very aggressively, he's local, very aggressively confronting and approaching people who were at that party. They ended up indicting him. He's going to fight his case. He's presumed innocent, has a First Amendment argument that he's going to present. I think the outcome of it will be that there will be perhaps true crime reporters that get more aggressive and dig deeper into the courtroom documents. And I don't know if true crime reporters will be as aggressive knowing that he got arrested, right? So it's a balance. On the one hand, he's uncovering things, right? Bringing a lot of things to light. On the other hand, he pays the price and will literally pay the price because he's got to pay for a lawyer and has already spent time behind bars. So I think it'll have a two-pronged effect. I think some people will take it and say, yeah, this is the way, this is how aggressive I need to be. And I think others will say, well, I may just dial it back a notch. So I think it will have impact, but I think it'll impact different people differently. Artis, yes, I believe most of them are on it. There you go. Clarification. Michelle L., people believe what they want to believe. Ain't that the truth? Doreen Dargan, there is no evidence connecting Karen to the murder. She denied confessions, saying chain of events is very faulty, very faulty. So Doreen is not believing this at all. If there's one juror like Doreen, there's not going to be a conviction. Lisa Fickle, thank you so much for joining us and watching today. We've got Russ Leary with us today. Russ, watching and supporting. Appreciate it, Russ. Great to see you. New Jersey Robin. Vinny, look into the Anna Walsh murder case, Massachusetts. I know that case very well. It'll be in the same courthouse. I wonder if any of these same witnesses are a part of it. That's a fascinating case as well. And Court TV will be covering it. Thank you, NJ Robin, but you did not tell me what exit. If anyone still believes KR is guilty, it's not because of the evidence. It's the only theory offered to the family. It's all they have. That's why, says Michelle L. All right. Sarah, why did they take photos right away of the back of her vehicle when they took photos of her license plate on the police cam? Why didn't they take photos right away of the back of the vehicle? This is another issue I'm going to talk about one night on my show, is the processing of this scene. And it seemed today what the trooper said, everything happened the way it happened. It was processed the way it was processed because of the blizzard. So, Sarah, I can't answer that tonight, but we're going to answer that on my show. Probably tomorrow night will be a good night for us to get into that. Thank you so much. Michael Garnett, Vinny, I know Commonwealth wants justice and truth, but why bring this to trial if it's so bad at this time? Way too much reasonable doubt for me so far. They believe their evidence. So their evidence is based upon believing this man. If you don't believe this man, you're not going to believe their evidence. They are going to explain this the way the trooper explained it. Bad taste, inappropriate, unprofessional, regrettable, but did not impact my investigation of the case. That's his testimony. Will the jury believe that? Will the jury buy that? Becomes the question. They would have been better off not to put him on the stand. He stated he would have been able to prove it. It supports the theory of planting evidence. They needed him. They needed him on the stand. They absolutely needed him to get pieces of evidence in, because he's in it. He is gathering and finding pieces of evidence in the case. Got to be there. Now the manner of death is out there, undetermined. Proctor tactic failed. We'll see how much of an impact this has on the medical examiner. A day in the life of my cat. Proctor's contempt of Karen shows his unobjective bias and gives reasonable doubt he planted evidence. Contempt can make people do ugly things. And that is exactly what prosecutors will be arguing. Diana Lang, hi, Vinny. Glad to be back for another live. If the evidence was super compelling, I could see past Proctor's appalling text, but I'm not there yet. Exactly. And that becomes the extra challenge. They have proven collusion and perjury, says Hater Guy. Brandy Rose, I'm sorry, what? Hello, beautiful people. Today was so uncomfortable to watch. Imagine how the 10 women on the jury felt about those texts. And it's not just women. It's not just women. Everyone wants to say just women, women, women. Men are tough on men. Because like I forgot, one of our viewers pointed out, we have wives. We have daughters. We have sisters. I don't have a sister, though. Wonderful humans. Make sure you like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. We're getting close to 12,000 live viewers right now. So please like and subscribe, because this is going to end soon because I have to leave. I hate to leave you on a lurch. I didn't expect all of you to be here. But you did all show up, and I appreciate it. Coach Karen, let's not forget they asked the road to be plowed for the second search. That alone picks up debris from anywhere. Coach Karen, thank you. Lisa Whitenauer saying hello. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, folks, Vinny's live 8 p.m. on Closing Arguments. Be there, which is why I'm going to have to end this very soon to make sure I don't lose my voice. Mrs. K, thank you. And I also prepare for that. Wow. What a show. What a show. What a day. What a day. So let me just bottom line this right now before I leave. Let me bottom line this. The bottom line, this was a devastating day for the prosecution. But it's not Furman game over. The prosecution can still attempt to pick up the pieces and put them together. They can. The problem is now 12 people all must trust and believe this man beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know if they can do that. I don't know if they can do that. And if the people who are watching this stream are even close to where some of those jurors are, and it's a problem. It's a problem. I think there's two things that have been raised now today. Can they get 12 people to trust him? And which is more likely now? 12 people trusting him or 12 people believing it's a reasonable argument that he may very well have planted evidence? Is that more reasonable than trusting him beyond a reasonable doubt? Think about that. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Frankie Figs, Gen X, and Melly, keeping law and order in our very active chat today. Appreciate all the comments and the questions. And this case is still not over. There's more testimony to come. And Wednesday, the cross-examination. This is just the beginning of his cross-examination. So it could get worse. It could very well get worse for prosecutors. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tonight, 8 o'clock on Court TV. Have a wonderful day. Please don't forget to hug the kids.